Okay, so here's a question for all the panelists, and we can just pass the microphone down. Where do you go for your news these days? Local, national, and international?
Oh,
big question on everyone's mind.
Well, I read the New York Times every day, except Sunday. It's too long. But they're actually, I also every day listen to, 5 days a week, listen to Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! Hour-long news report, which is on TV, and I get it by podcast. And I go to some websites. Salon.com has excellent news coverage and interesting commentary. I wake up to NPR. But I think I would highlight Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! On TV, radio, or podcast. And the New York Times is sometimes frustrating, but it's still, I think, the best daily newspaper in the country, and I hope it survives.
Man, this is just really traumatic, I'll tell you. I don't know what's going on in my own community anymore. It's driving me crazy. I don't have time. I already spend time in front of the computer all day. I cannot sit there and wander around looking for what might be out there. I really miss a well-organized local newspaper where I can go to predictable places for predictable types of information. I do read the New York Times. I do listen to public radio. I listen to WEMU when I happen to be in my car and able to do so. But it's a really, really big challenge. And not only for how I get information, but coming out of public health, I used to know exactly how to push information out to the community, information about H1N1, you know, really important stuff. And we had really great relationships with the local media. And now I don't even know where to send the email to get something in front of the community. So it's a huge problem.
I use some of the same sources that the other two speakers just mentioned. I do get a chance to listen to the radio quite a bit while I'm working, and so public radio tends to be one of the biggest sources for national news, international news, and some of the local news. One thing I would add is that Mary Morgan is here from the Ann Arbor Chronicle, and I think for the last year or two, the Chronicle has done an outstanding job. I mean, the fact that you're here reporting on this, obviously, they're paying attention to what's going on in the local community. They're giving almost word for word coverage of what's happening in these local meetings at the city and in these groups. And so I think the Chronicle is a great place to look for the local news.
What is it?
AnnArborChronicle.com.
It's a local news, online daily news.
Online.
It's online.
Jeff, you took the words right out of my mouth. I do look online at the Chronicle and AnnArbor.com and some local blogs. I honestly find I don't spend a lot of time listening to national news these days. It's all about fear and all about bad news, and I just prefer to look at what's working, what does work, what's a positive news, what models are out there. So I spend a lot more time looking at local blogs and looking at some things like Yes Magazine and things that report some of the positive news that's coming out that maybe isn't up to the minute but has a longer term perspective.
Pretty much the same regimen, except I lost the ability to read the New York Times a couple of decades ago, I think. I just haven't. I don't know if it's energy or what, but so I guess I would give a plug. We switched over to the Detroit Free Press, which has many of the same problems of other newspapers, but there's a bit more of a regional sense to it, and it does remind us that we're in Michigan, and those are all issues which Washtenaw County is often accused of trying to ignore, that we're in Michigan, and we're not.
Thanks. I maybe have a unique viewpoint because I get to be in the local press, and I do read the Chronicle and AnnArbor.com, and I've been really impressed with the Chronicle's coverage of what's going on at the county because they've got some really serious budget issues that are going to affect a lot of the things that we all care about. People up here, the human services budget is going to take some hits. But I think and I read The Economist too, which gives me an international perspective, I guess, and keeps me honest in some ways in the way I think about things around the world. I spend all week reading the Sunday New York Times, and I like to read the Tuesday one because it has a science section. But what I see lacking, and I think Michael addressed, is nobody locally is covering the state. And the state is what's affecting all the local governments in Michigan. And the Michigan Municipal League would tell you there's something like 36 local governments that are ready to go over the edge in our state right now. The state has been cutting back for years and years and years. They're going to cut back some more. It's really hitting the local governments. If you don't understand what's going on at the state, you think maybe all these local problems are, wow, the local people are messing up. That's not it. Maybe in some places, but all you have to do is look at what's happening in Lansing, and it's a real malaise that is spreading out to local communities, cities, townships, counties across Michigan, and it's a story that needs to be covered, and you do have to go to the Free Press or the news or something like that to catch it.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and then we're going to do our breakout sessions. So the final question is, are there alternatives to Wall Street retirement investment funds that would benefit Washtenaw County?
I don't think there are any locally focused retirement funds.
Okay, then we'll end with another
I think
question.
you'd want one. Imagine if you had a Michigan
What are the
retirement
political
fund.
roadblocks to green communities, and how should they be confronted?
Just in Arbor.
Take 1 minute.
The state senate
What are the obstacles to green communities?
is one of our local roadblocks, and I think it's a people's reluctance to give up the old way of doing things and to take a chance and to look out, and that's normal. That's human nature, and maybe in Michigan we're getting to the point where people are so desperate that they're going to try something new and start to look at these new things that can be done. Because if we look at just what's been done as far as studies and what's happening in other countries, in Germany right now, the leading creator of new jobs is their green economy that they're trying to build. They're buying solar panels, by the way, made in Michigan because they have such a good tax benefit for doing that. Same kind of climate we have. A study done in 2002 said that there were 10,000 jobs to be had in the wind industry in Michigan. We're the 14th best wind in the country. And yet we have about 6 applications in to build new coal-fired power plants. We don't need any more coal-fired power plants in this state. What we need to do is turn our attention to the green economy, and there's a whole lot of jobs there. And I don't know how we drive that into the state Senate, and maybe things will just have to get so bad that they understand it. And the House could probably use a few lessons, although our own legislators here from Ann Arbor do a fine job.
All right, let's have a round of applause for our great